Hello, welcome to Severance Episode 3, Season 2 discussion.
Our Queer Cinema Catch-Up mini-series in which we recap the latest episode of Severance, and this week's episode is called Who is Alive? And why is it called that, Joe?
Because Outie Mark has decided he's going to try to get a message relayed to his Innie Mark to discover who Innie Mark meant when he said at the end of Season 1,
She's still alive!
And there was some confusion within the family, and they think that some people think it was the wife they were talking about, some people think it was the baby they were talking about. In this episode, Mark and his sister orchestrate, we don't really see it happen on camera, but they meet and they cut out felt letters and tape it to a construction light. And the idea is Mark is gonna burn this message that spells out who is alive on the light into his eyes, which was like a creative idea. But
and then sprint into work before the message disappeared.
Goes away.
You knew right when you saw that he was staring at a bright light, you knew. I would never have.
What would you thought he was doing?
It was still a mystery to me.
This is the greatest mystery yet. What is he doing? But you want to do a full recap?
Yeah, so that's that's what's happening with Outie Mark. So back in the Innie world, we have Mark and Helena. I'm sorry, everyone. I keep calling her Helena because of Orphan Black, a show I also love, but it is Helena. No, it's Helly. Sorry, it's Helly, who we think might be Helena, are roaming the hall.
I guarantee nobody noticed that.
But I did. But I would remember, and they're roaming the halls.
Yes.
And they're trying to pass out missing signs of Gemma, Miss Casey, I should say, to other employees they encounter. But instead they find, I missed this. I don't know if they were intentionally trying to find the goat room because they knew a man worked in there. That was a little bit lost on me.
I think it was unintentional.
That seemed like, once I saw the door, I knew it was the goat room. So it makes me wonder.
Maybe was there always someone in the goat room and they weren't able to see that there was actually like a hallway to go somewhere else?
I mean, they'd only been there that one time and the man yelled at them to go away because the goats weren't ready.
Well, there was no man to yell at them this time, and they made a new discovery. They made a being John Malkovich discovery, as I like to say, where they found like a kind of a crawl space where the goats were.
and then they found the mammalians, Gwendolyn Christie.
Would you want to describe what mammalians are?
It was a room with a field and lots of goats, and then a man dressed up like a goat, and then Gwendolyn Christie, who claimed that she was a mammalian. And then they were like, hey, where's Miss Casey? She did not like this question. She rang her sheep bell. And then all these other...
It's more like this.
And then all these other people emerged, and they were angry until Mark told a very Jesus-like parable about what would you do if one of your own goats went missing, and then Gwendolyn was willing to help. Or she said that they wouldn't impede their search and asked to see their bellies, which we thought could be a clone thing because of Kyle XY, the ABC family show about clones. Kyle famously had no belly button, which was seen in the preview. I never even watched that show.
I remember there were
Kyle had no belly
like
button.
print ads too of just like no belly button. I was like, this is
very intriguing. But then she said they don't have any pouches, so maybe it's they're the mammalians, so maybe they thought they were marsupials.
Just when we thought we were getting somewhere, we got even more confused than before. So then Allison made the joke.
What was my joke?
What are the upper management people called?
Oh, the board.
The board. She's like, the board are kangaroos.
New theory of the week. And then, sorry, just to close, I always say this.
What's the loop that we're closing at?
There is no loop. I'm just going to finish summarizing.
We need to open a loop to close it. Opening the
This is our most chaotic mini episode yet. Okay, so Dylan G, who unfortunately in episode 1 called Mark Cherry, but is really played by Zach Cherry. He doesn't really want to go on an adventure with his friends and help them. It seems like he wants to do a good job at work, and we know it's because he's been told about the Family Visitation Center, which he gets to visit this episode, and he meets his wife, played by Merritt Weaver, who basically tells him in the real world he's kind of a screw-up who can't hold a job, and so now he's even more motivated to toe the line as a Lumen employee. And then Irv goes back to O&D per Mark's request to give them the Miss Casey photo, but in doing so, he shows another employee there drawings he's made of Bert, played by Christopher Walken. And then she sees a picture of the elevator and tells him it's the something room that they used to send shipments to. Yeah. Sounded like people. Sounded a little suspect to me.
Yeah.
And then it seems like she might know where it is. So now we're all caught up, I think, basically. Oh, and then Miss Cobel drove really far away to somewhere named Salt Lake?
Salt Neck.
Salt Neck.
Well, it was still 235 miles away. She decided she was going to commit to driving all the way to Salt Neck.
Which is not a real place. I Googled it during the episode. And then she turned back around, encountered Helena in the parking lot, Helena said, and was like, I deserve to be the leader of the severed floor. You need me. Helena's like, no, it's his ego. We don't need you as much as you think. But actually the board wants to talk to you. They start walking toward the building. Helena's security guard is there. It's unclear if Miss Cobel was afraid of the security guard or if she kind of realized, I'm about to go into a dark place with this woman who probably wouldn't hesitate to kill me. So she turned around and went away. And then the biggest thing of all, which we've just completely glossed over, is that Mark reintegrates at the end of the episode.
It was a big deal. And we were really nervous watching this. It felt like there were a few moments where we felt like the episode was wrapping up. Like Miss Cobel turns around and it seems like she's gonna go back to the office, but then something concerns her deeply and she like backs away. And do we see her drive off?
Yeah, we do.
But there was still like 10 minutes left, and that's where the whole thing happens, where Mark and his sister create the light message, and then Mark gets reintegrated
via the person we met last. Her name was Asal or Isal.
Okay, yeah. There were a few things that I want to flag in this episode. Like I feel like Salt's neck might be some type of hint, and it's also like a neck body part. Well, the focus on the belly button.
When I googled it, yeah, that's like a.
And then another throwaway line that I'd like to flag that I don't know if it'll be answered this season, but when Mark is getting reintegrated, the woman's asking him like seeming like random questions like about his like oldest memories, like which seems to be kind of like innocent, like retreading your steps, like to see who's the Outie Mark, who's the Innie Mark.
Which was cool to see as he started to remember both, how he got confused, but yes.
But they're really fixated on like his mother.
Yeah.
And he even says her name, Fern Scout.
Yeah.
And it's like a really unusual name. So I wonder if that's something that we need to pay attention to.
I think so, because also last season it seemed like Miss Cobel had a strange affinity for Mark, which I can't understand, and at times it seemed motherly, like her care and attention toward him. And that was what I was gonna say. She says Mark has to complete Cold Harbor. It's this thing that he's doing as an Innie. And when I Googled Salt Neck, the only result that came up beneath like weird, I guess it's a medical condition, having a salt neck. I'll have to look more into that later. But underneath that it said Salt Harbor was a location that came up. So I'm gonna Google. It would be nice if I had, read about that.
Follow up in the next episode.
We're just kind of, you guys can do the Googling for us, and you can let us know.
We'll give you the search words, and you do the research for us.
Do you have any other theories of the week?
Well, did we also skip over Mr. What's his name? I always forget his name. And we found out his first name in this episode.
Oh, Milchek.
Milchek.
Oh, we did. Milchek. Seth Milchek.
That was an important part of the episode.
He gets brought in to speak to Natalie, who's the woman who speaks to the board on her headset. And the board has given Milchek a gift for his service and his promotion to celebrate him. And it is photographs of Milchek as if he were Keir through the years of his life. It was such like an interesting scene because it seemed like Milchek didn't know how to understand this gift and maybe was like a little bit offended by it because it is...
We didn't notice he was offended till the board hung up.
Yeah, and then he looked angry, and he looked like he was trying to exchange a glance with Natalie to assess what her feelings about it were. And
but she just was like smiling. Oh.
Yeah.
And she also appeared later in the episode. She shows up.
Oh, yes. At the house of Rickon and Penelope. Is that her name? Like Penny? And
Allison will correct the name in the following episode.
His name was Persephone. They're trying to convince Rickon to write a version of his book for Innie specifically, which I found to be so... This episode is very aware of all the manipulation Lumen is doing to make these employees fall in line. And so the idea is that this book, as silly and dumb as it is in the real world, to Innies who've never encountered any other kind of literature, like most literature, inspires new thoughts, helps you to step into your own power, and it helped them self-actualize and try and beat back against Lumen. So the idea, to me, it seemed like Lumen was showing up to have him rewrite something so they could plant it, so that they think this was the gospel of Rickon. That would be things like respect your elders, like pay attention at work, that kind of, I don't know, someone more talented. Ben Stiller will write something a little bit better than that, but. All right, the only other theory of the week I want to flag is if Mark has reintegrated, I do feel like the Helena divide. I can't tell if it's Helena or Helly, because there are moments where she seems like Helly, where she steps in, is really trying to convince the goat people to find Miss Casey that seemed like her old self. But then there was another moment where she and Mark were about to kiss. It doesn't happen, and I was reminded that Helly went in for the kiss. So it seems like this is Helena. But what if she too has been integrated?
But who would have done, like what's the backstory? Like who would have signed up to be integrated? Not Helena.
I know. Well, yeah. And then...
So when would Helly have had the time to be like, oh,
maybe it was forced upon her.
Why? And does Lumen even know that's a possibility?
So they do know it's a possibility because if you remember in the first season...
That one guy.
Petey had done it, and then Miss Cobel stole the chip from his coffin in that hilarious, ridiculous scene.
She drills into her brain.
During a funeral.
Also, did we even discuss... Sorry, continue.
I was going to expound upon.
Well, a new addition to this podcast I like to talk about every episode is talking about being integrated. Patricia Arquette is barely like with the other actors in this show. She's off like driving around by herself.
I'm thinking it's a scheduling conflict. Or...
This is Severance. Severance. She should be making the time, Patricia.
Please hear our plea. You're our favorite part of the show.
Yes.
But I feel like what the comedy that made us love her so much came from the radical divide of her dual character last season.
Yes.
And now that we are only with Miss Cobel, like, of course, the way her intonation is still funny to me, but I miss Miss Solveig.
The Scooby-Doo disguising herself every episode.
Oh, Mom.
Yeah, more of the Count Olaf of it all.
Okay. Our other segments. Patricia moment of the week. What was your favorite Patricia moment? There weren't that many.
I'll have to get back to you on that.
I like when she advocated for herself.
Oh yeah, she was like standing in the parking lot like really ominously, and I really like took note of her posture.
Me too. It was very
determined, confident.
And we don't really like a lot of straight things on this podcast, so.
But for Patricia, we'll allow it.
We'll allow it. Innie of the week, Outie of the week.
The woman from Game of Thrones.
Gwendolyn Christie is your Innie of the week. I think mine is going to be Irv because the way he was talking about Bert was so sweet, but then... Also, it seems like I can't tell if he accidentally let the woman from O&D see the drawing of the elevator.
I think it was intentional.
Or if it was intentional, in which case he's also kind of badass for being a little bit manipulative. And I love the duality of his sweetness with him trying to get what he wants. Because another theory we didn't talk about is I now think that Irv decided to stay because he suspects Helly of being Helena and very much mistrusts Miss Wong for reasons unknown, because he really was glaring at her. So I think he stayed behind to help his friends. And then my Outie of the week, I'm torn. I kind of want to say Rickon because he's so funny, but he also is being an idiot and letting flattery sway him to do something clearly not in the best interest of his brother-in-law. So actually, no, it's going to be Mark for taking a huge swing and deciding to reintegrate.
I'm choosing only because I thought it was done so effectively. Is Mark's in his car and he's practicing trying to like shine the light in his eyes to like see the message and see how long it will last for. And then he closes them and he opens them. There's a jump scare. The woman's out front of the car. I forget her name, but
I think it's Izal.
The woman who, I'm choosing her.
The surgeon.
Just because it was just like really chaotic, and she like kept trying to like get into the car. Let me in the car. Let me in the car.
And then she got in the car.
And
and then Mark got in the car. Well, thank you for listening to this chaotic mini-series episode of Queer Cinema Catch-Up. We truly end the episode and we come over here and we sit down and we
throw
talk
on
about
the light. We're in the shadows.
Let me go back to my Severance
I don't even know
state.
what time it is right now.
Actually, I don't either. We should guess.
7 later?
I was going to say like 10 o'clock.
No! We're about to watch a movie also after this.
It's 8:30. Okay, well, this has been lovely.
All right, thank you for listening to this Severance recap on season 2, episode 3. Please comment with your theories. We're not getting too many interactions on this little podcast, but maybe this is
we're going to keep chugging along.
Yeah, we're chugging along.
Mini-series, I think the more we have... Okay, sorry.
You're having a private meeting. You discuss with me right now. The more mini-series we do, the more successful
the more we watch TV. Oh, I forgot to bring my pillow into it.
Well, you can be right now. This is the show and tell section of the podcast.
I wanted her to be right here to show how much we love TV. Please join us next week and on Thursdays for our full-length episodes. All right, subscribe.
Full-length episodes on our Severance recap.
On other queer
media. And maybe there's some surprises along the way.
There might be a surprise something on Monday. In fact, there will be a surprise something on Monday.
A goat?
If only.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.